What's up, smart homers? My name's Aaron, and in this video, I'm going to show you 13 different smart bedside table lamps that work with Home Assistant. The first smart home product that most people get is some sort of smart light. Smart lamps are a nice way to provide ambient lighting without the harsh direct light of a smart bulb. Plus, they just look a lot better than a standard bulb. The problem is though, there are tons of smart lamps out there on Amazon, and it's hard to know which ones work with Home Assistant, what other platforms do they work with, and how do they stack up against each other. That's why I picked these 13 different smart lamps, and I've tested each to see how they work. In this video, I'll compare their prices and features. I'll briefly show you the native app for some of the devices, and then I'm going to show you how they work with my smart home platform of choice, which is Home Assistant. If you don't use Home Assistant though, that's okay. I'll still give you an idea of the compatibility of these devices with the other major smart home platforms. I'll also do some color and white warmth comparisons as well as brightness and dimness, so you get an idea of how these stack up against each other. At the end, I'm going to tell you which are my favorites and which are my least favorites. And don't forget, all of these products are listed in links in the description. And if you use those links, they help out this channel hugely at no extra cost to you. One thing I try to keep in mind when I'm looking at devices to buy for these comparisons is that they don't rely on cloud connectivity to work with Home Assistant. These devices can stop working if the cloud that's behind them stops functioning, like if the company goes broke or something like that, and they just stop supporting the device. You've effectively lost your device because it was reliant on that cloud. One other thing is that while most of these devices use Wi-Fi, some use Zigbee or Thread, which are just some other wireless protocols. These protocols require a special hub or radio to get them working with your smart home platform, and while some smart home platforms have those radios built in, not all of them do. For this reason, if you're not using Home Assistant, you may want to stay away from those types. For any devices using Zigbee, I will be using the ZHA integration in Home Assistant, and so these devices may appear a little bit differently in the Zigbee to MQTT integration. So the first lamp is made by Meross, and it's a well-known brand in the industry, and this is their MSL430 Wi-Fi smart table lamp. It's basically an acrylic cylinder with a white plastic base and a metal disc on the top. Inside the acrylic cylinder is another cylinder made of some diffuser material. The disc on top acts as a touch button for controlling the lamp, which I'll show later. The base has a power jack for DC power, a status LED, and a HomeKit sticker, because like most Meross products, this works with HomeKit. When you turn it on, you can see that it produces a nice, even light, which is decently bright. A single tap of the top button changes between different color and white modes, and holding the button cycles through the brightness levels, and a double tap turns it off. Getting this device all set up in the app is super simple, and the app will walk you through connecting it. The app has a basic color wheel and a white warmth wheel, and below the wheels is a slider for brightness, but that's pretty much it for app control. Okay, so to connect this thing to Home Assistant, there are actually a couple different ways. One way is to connect it via the HomeKit protocol, and the other is to use a third-party integration in Home Assistant called Meross LAN. Now, in the past, I figured out that the Meross LAN integration actually provides more features than the HomeKit protocol does, and since the Meross LAN integration is a local integration with Home Assistant, to me it's just as good or better. I won't go over how to set it up though, because it's fairly straightforward, but once you do, you'll see it automatically discovered in Home Assistant via that integration. Here you can see that it's discovered by the HomeKit integration as well, but like I said, we're not using that. In Home Assistant, you can see a light entity for the lamp, another light entity for the LED indicator, and a couple of other fairly useless entities. You can see that you get basic on-off functionality, a color wheel and white warmth wheel, a brightness slider, and that's pretty much it. To me, this is the most basic of all of the lamps that we're looking at in this video. But that's not a bad thing. Next, we have the Wi-Fi based MSL450 from Meross. This one looks quite a bit different, a cylinder with much rounder edges. The white plastic base is a bit taller than the previous one, and it has a couple of touch buttons on the front of it. The buttons have a little carrot-shaped cutout with an LED behind it. On the bottom, you can see its HomeKit pairing code, and on the top, you can see a white touch button. The diffuser part of the body itself is just a cylinder of white diffuse acrylic. You can also see on the base that it has a USB-C port for a 5 volts DC power, and they do provide a wall wart and cord. I love that it's 5 volts DC, which means you can power it with any USB-C cable you want. When you turn it on, you again see a nice even glow. At some brightness levels, you can see a brighter light at the bottom and a slight fade toward the top, which to me looks pretty neat. Double tapping the top button turns it on, single tapping it changes the color or effect, and long tapping changes the brightness. Then you have the M and clock touch buttons, and tapping the M button changes between color mode and effect mode. The LED indicator below it will be off when it's in white mode, solid white when it's in color mode, and solid green when in effect mode. Tapping the clock button enables and disables a countdown timer, and holding it will reset the lamp. The LED indicator under it will be off when the countdown is disabled and white when enabled. To add this thing to the Meross app, it's the exact same as the previous lamp, so I won't go into it in detail. And again, the app controls are the exact same as the previous lamp, with a color wheel and a white warmth slider, as well as a brightness slider. The only difference is the effects tab, which has a bunch of different presets of either white or color that you can choose. But it's important to remember that these aren't really effects in the way we think of them, with changes in brightness and changes in color rapidly and things like that. Since the lamp can only produce one color at a time, these are more presets than effects. In Home Assistant, you can see that it's discovered by the HomeKit integration, but we're not going to use that. And again, this time we're going to use it with the Meross LAN integration. And after adding it, you can see that you get a light entity for the lamp itself. And if you tap, you can see that you have color and white warmth control. And you can also select any of the effects that you saw in the app, which is nice to have some presets built in like that. My overall feel with this lamp though is that it feels a bit cheaper than the MSL430, and the price shows that it is cheaper. Even though it has the effects in the app, it's still a really basic lamp with not much else going for it, with only a single color allowed at a time, no individually controlled LEDs. I also think that the buttons and the indicators on the front of the device actually detract from the overall appearance, although they are useful for quickly changing the color and stuff like that on the lamp. Next, we have one of the most unique table lamps that I've ever seen, and that's the Umbra Cono, which has been developed in collaboration with Nanoleaf. Like many products that Nanoleaf makes, this one runs on thread, and specifically matter over thread. The body of the light is cone shaped, and that must be where it gets its name. It has a dome diffuser across the face of the cone with a silicone ring around the rim. The base is an injection molded plastic cross. You can see a little tag with a matter code attached to it. It comes with a black USB-C cable, as this device can be powered by 5 volts DC. You can see the USB-C port near the tip of the cone, but this device actually has a battery in it. Near the tip of the cone, you can also see a button for manual control of the light. Tapping the button allows you to turn on the lamp, double tapping changes the colors, cycling through a few different presets, and triple tapping and holding puts it into pairing mode. When you turn it on, you can see the light coming from the face of the cone, and it's fairly evenly lit. But as you bring the brightness down, you do start to see hot spots on the face of it where the individual LEDs are. The light is all one color, so unfortunately no multicolor effects. The cross-shaped base allows you either lay it down at an angle or stand it face up. With this one, we're not going to try to add it to the Nanoleaf app, and instead we're just going to add it directly to Home Assistant. To do this, you're going to have the thread border router set up in Home Assistant, which can be a little bit complicated to get set up, but I'm not going to go over it here. There are dedicated videos out there. You can do it with the built-in thread chip on the Home Assistant Yellow. You can add a Home Assistant Connect ZBT1 USB dongle, or you can add an existing thread network to Home Assistant. Like let's say you had an Apple HomePod Mini, which has a thread border router built in, you could use that. To set up the lamp, we need to tap the control button 3 times, and on the third tap, we hold it until it blinks a few times. In Home Assistant, you just add a Matter device and then scan the QR code on the base when prompted, and after that, you wait until it connects and you'll see it under the Matter integration. This is going to take a few tries because Matter is just not good yet. You get a light entity in Home Assistant, which allows you to control it with the white warmth and color wheel controls, but you don't get any kind of battery entity. I expected it to be a little bit slow to respond, as I've seen with other Matter over thread devices in Home Assistant, but it was actually quite responsive. You also get an on level setting for how bright it should be when powered on, an on-off transition time, and a power-on behavior to decide what it will do after power or battery outage. Overall, I gotta say though, with this one, it feels and looks cheap. The front face has pretty poor diffusion, like I mentioned, especially at lower light levels, and you can see those hot spots. And the design isn't really modern or unique in my opinion. Instead, to me, it looks sloppily and hastily designed just to get the product out there. Okay, so now let's look at one from Govee. And this one is the Govee H6052. It has a standard cylindrical design with a light gray cap on each end. And on the top, you have a nice layout of 5 different buttons and a small hole for an onboard microphone. The center section is made of diffuse white plastic with Govee's logo down at the bottom, and although it is there, it's not intrusive. On the bottom cap, you can see a USB-C port for power, but it's important to note that it actually requires 12 volts at 1 amp, which means you need to use the provided power adapter. You turn it on by pressing the top middle button, and when you do, you can see that it produces a nice even glow with no hotspot. Like I mentioned, that middle button turns it on and off, but you also have a set of brightness control buttons, a button that rotates through some presets, and a button that rotates through the sound reactive modes. The sound reactivity is super cool and has a bunch of different modes which I'll show in the app. It reacts to your voice or music just the way you'd expect. This mode shows you that the lamp is not just one solid color, but actually has 132 different LEDs in there that are used together behind that diffuser to make some super unique effects. One other thing I will say is that these buttons are actual like physical buttons, not just touch buttons, which are so much better than touch buttons. I won't go into all the details of the app, but pretty much it's divided into 6 sections, each offering different controls. At the top, there's a brightness slider that lets you adjust the lamp's brightness across all modes. The first section is color, where you can set the lamp to a solid color. Features a color wheel and a range of preset colors that you can tap to apply instantly. There's also a white warmth slider, which lets you shift the lamp's color temperature from a warm white to a cool white. The next section is scene, which offers a variety of preset lighting effects or scenes, such as sunrise, sunset, and rainbow. And these scenes are consistent with the ones available in other Govee products like their Y lights and curtain lights, making it easy to match lighting effects across devices. The scene section is categorized into different types like natural scenes, life scenes, emotion scenes, and relaxation scenes, offering a wide variety of ambient effects. Moving on, the next tab is illumination, which offers different white and color temperature scenes tailored for specific activities. After that, the music tab transforms the lamp into a music reactive device. Using the built-in microphone, it can sync lighting effects with surrounding sounds. You could choose from various sound reactive modes like spectrum or vibration. And there's a sensitivity slider to fine-tune how the lamp responds to audio. You can even choose to use your phone's microphone instead of the device's microphone, so it will react to the sound picked up by your phone, but this is over Bluetooth, so you need to be close by. There's also a finger sketch tab that turns the lamp into a creative canvas. You could draw or write on a virtual canvas in the app, and the lamp will display your creations in the colors and shapes that you choose. You can even set your drawings to scroll across the lamp or add effects like twinkling, making it a fun way to personalize the light. To integrate this lamp with Home Assistant, we're first going to have to enable LAN control. In the app setting, there's an option for LAN control, and toggling this on allows the device to be controlled over the local network, which is necessary for the Home Assistant integration. To connect the lamp to Home Assistant, we're going to use the Govee to MQTT integration, which allows you to connect the device locally over Wi-Fi to Home Assistant. In Home Assistant, the lamp appears as a light entity, allowing you to easily toggle it on and off. When you tap the entity, you can set any of the effects available in the app. You have access to a brightness slider, a color wheel, and a white warmth slider, which is pretty typical. And the only limitation I can see that you have in Home Assistant is that you can't use the finger sketch feature or a few of the other advanced functions in Home Assistant. Overall, it integrates very smoothly and offers a lot of control. Next, we have the newer version of that one, which is the Govee Table Lamp 2. This one has a sleek and modern design with a cylindrical shape and a rounded top edge. Its body is made of opaque white acrylic, providing a soft diffused glow, and the lamp's top features 5 touch-sensitive buttons, along with a microphone hole for sound reactivity. At the base, there's a hollow space with a transparent plastic window with the Govee logo on it. Inside that space, there's a wave-shaped chrome surface that reflects light coming from the lamp above it for an interesting pattern. The base also includes a DC power jack, a rubberized texture on the bottom, and a Matter QR code for integrating with most smart home platforms. The middle button on the top is for power, and tapping that will turn the lamp on. The plus and minus buttons are for adjusting brightness, and then you have one that cycles through some presets, and the other that cycles through the sound reactivity settings. Adding this device to the Govee app is a little bit different. You actually have to tap the on-off button at some point during the process, but after it's added, the app features are nearly identical with version 1. Integrating it with Home Assistant actually follows the same steps as well, using that Govee to MQTT integration. As I mentioned before, you're going to need to enable the LAN control in the settings, and then you'll be able to connect it to Home Assistant via the Govee to MQTT third-party integration. Overall, this lamp does have a really unique look, but I'm not sure that it's my favorite. The bottom chrome wave looks a little gimmicky to me, still a solid option in my opinion. Next, we have the Eve Flare. It's a sphere-shaped table lamp that is mostly composed of a plastic spherical diffuser. The base has a handle for carrying or hanging the lamp, and it's battery powered, which means it can go without being wired for a while. This allows you to place it in different locations and then just put it on the base station when it needs to be charged. The bottom also has some contacts for charging on the provided base station and 2 buttons. One button turns it on and off, and the other one changes the color. The light only gives a solid color, so no individually controlled LEDs, but it is a very nice diffuse look, as you can see, and it's a very unique looking lamp with that spherical shape. This device works on Thread, so we won't connect it to any native app, but instead will go directly into Home Assistant. Like the previous Thread device, this device requires a Thread network to be set up in order to connect it to Home Assistant. And if you have an existing Thread network, it should automatically be discovered in Home Assistant, and you can add it via the Thread integration. The flare will also be discovered via Bluetooth, which does require Bluetooth connectivity, some kind of Bluetooth dongle in Home Assistant. And then all you have to do is add it using the HomeKit pairing code on the bottom. Anyway, you get exactly what you'd expect in Home Assistant, a light entity, and some information about the Thread status of the device. Overall, this device is one of the more unique options, but I did find it a little bit finicky when it comes to connection. It was a little bit delayed when it came to turning it on and off and it reacting in Home Assistant. It's almost like it falls asleep and then it needs to be woken up, but you shouldn't have to touch it to wake it up, so I'm not really sure why it does that. The next one is one I've had on my shelf for quite a while, and that is the Yeelight D2. It's a short, wide cylindrical lamp with a white diffused acrylic top and a darker gray bottom quarter. The top features the Yeelight brand name on the front, while the bottom front has a touch-sensitive button indicated by a white circle. The sides of the gray section include these darker gray lines that also act as touch controls. On the back, there's a USB-C port for 5 volts DC at 1 amp power, which is awesome, so you can just power this with any old USB charger pretty much. The base has rubberized grips and a HomeKit pairing code sticker for HomeKit integration. When you turn it on, you can see that it lights up that diffuser area extremely evenly, producing a very clean, diffuse look. Like I mentioned before, the circle button turns the lamp on and off, and the gray lines on the sides are slider controls. On the right, you slide your finger along the side to increase or decrease the lamp's brightness, and you slide your finger along the left side to cycle through colors, or if it's in white mode, to change the warmth of the white. In the Yeelight app, the device will automatically be discovered, and you can put in your Wi-Fi credentials and get it connected to Wi-Fi. When you first add the lamp to the app, it tells you about LAN control, which means that if your phone is in the same network as the lamp, the communication doesn't involve the Yeelight cloud, which is really cool. LAN control applies to Google Home as well. The app has 4 tabs: Recommend, White, Color, and Flow. The Recommend tab has some built-in presets. The White tab allows you to tune the white temperature. The Color tab shows a color pad rather than the typical wheel, and the Flow tab allows you to customize the flow effect, which is basically an effect of moving from one color to another, etc. The Yeelight integration in Home Assistant is native, meaning you don't have to add any integration and it just automatically gets discovered. And in Home Assistant, you get a basic light entity with color and white temperature controls, as well as a whole list of custom effects. If you look up the Yeelight integration, you'll see that its IoT class is local push, meaning that there's no cloud involvement, which is awesome. The swipe controls for changing colors, though, can be accidentally touched. Like, even if you just pick up the lamp or move it with your hand, you could actually bump those controls. So that can be kind of annoying, especially if you have kids that are, near the lamp. The next one has been around for quite a while, but it's been pretty popular, and it's a Zigbee-based battery-powered lamp from Philips Hue. The Hue Go is a bowl-shaped lamp resembling a hemisphere, and it has a bump on one side for propping it up at an angle, but it can also be laid flat on its back. The entire device has an outer layer of clear acrylic with white opaque plastic inside, and the light emitting surface is the flat side. There's a small hole for a 12-volt DC power plug for charging it, and on the back, a white indented button for control. When turned on, the light shines out of the flat surface and also emanates from the sides of the hemisphere, gradually dimming towards the center of the back, giving a really cool look. Holding the indented button on the back for 2 seconds turns the lamp on or off, and pressing it repeatedly cycles through white, warmth, and then a few color presets. If you hold the button for 10 seconds, it goes into power saving mode, which turns off the wireless radios in the lamp, but saves the constant battery drain that will occur normally. Since this is a Zigbee device, we're going to skip the Philips Hue app and jump right into Home Assistant because we can. To put it into Zigbee pairing mode, you're just going to triple tap the button on the back. In Home Assistant, you get a light entity, a firmware entity, which would allow you to update the Zigbee firmware directly via Home Assistant, a startup behavior setting, which lets you choose whether the lamp turns on or stays off when power is restored. You can also set the startup color temperature and the initial brightness level for when the device does power on. The light entity itself provides standard controls like a toggle and a brightness slider, and you also get color presets, color wheel, and a white warmth slider for fine-tuning the light's appearance. There is an effects button, but the only available effect is color loop, which cycles through a rainbow of colors. This lamp is pretty cool due to its portability, and I found it a bit more stable than the Eve Flare when it comes to responsiveness to control in Home Assistant and connectivity, but this one does use Zigbee, which is more robust, at least in my smart home, than Thread. It can get super dim, which makes it ideal for a bedside light of some kind. And I love how it's dark on the back but slowly gets lighter towards the front of the device. The Philips Hue Iris is another super unique device, as it also has a hemispherical shape made of transparent acrylic, but it has a hollow interior. And this part of the lamp, the back part, seems to be solely for style. It has a flattened spot on one side, which is technically the bottom, and that's the surface that it will sit flat on. And inside, there's a white plastic shaft running from the back to the front flat surface. Through that shaft, the permanent power cord runs to the actual light. When you turn it on, the light shines out of the face, and it kind of reminds me of the bat signal. I almost want to put a bat shape on the front just to make it look like the bat signal. But if you look at the rear side, you can see that the light also shines backward through the white plastic as well a little bit, although not as brightly as it does forward. To add this device to the Philips Hue app, and we need to do that first for Home Assistant, you'll first plug it in and then open the app. In the app, navigate to the Add Devices setting and choose to scan the QR code located on the flat bottom surface of the iris. Once scanned, the device will appear in the app, and you can select it to proceed through the setup process, which uses Bluetooth for initial connectivity. And once the device is connected, you'll see controls for a warm white wheel, color wheel, a toggle to turn the lamp on or off, and a brightness adjustment slider. The app may also prompt you to update the device's firmware, and once the firmware is updated, you can put the lamp into pairing mode by unplugging it and replugging it slowly into a power outlet 5 or 6 times. After that, the lamp will enter pairing mode, allowing you to connect it to Home Assistant via Zigbee. In Home Assistant, you pretty much get all of the same entities that you get with the Hue Go: a light entity, a firmware entity, a startup behavior setting, startup color temperature, and the initial brightness level. The light entity itself has the toggle and the brightness slider, a color wheel, and a white warmth wheel. And again, the only available effect is color loop. Overall, this one feels more like a bit of an overpriced art decoration piece than a smart lamp, but it still is smart and it is a lamp. When you dim it down though, you get this small patch of light on the face of the light, and it looks really cool. The WiZ Squire is a short cylindrical lamp with a unique 45-degree angled top made of diffuse plastic where most of the light is actually shining out of. There's also a translucent section at the bottom that emits a less intense light downward. The WiZ logo is displayed in gray text on the front of the white midsection, and there's a small control button on the back with a blue dot on it. The bottom has rubber feet and a recessed area with a DC power jack. A single press of the button on the back will turn it on, and when you turn it on, you can see how brightly it shines out the top, but out the bottom, it's much dimmer. This is cool because the bottom is more ambient lighting and the top is brighter, but they can be controlled independently, and I'll show that later on. You can double press the button to turn the lamp off and hold the button to adjust the brightness. To add this device to the WiZ app, you just start searching for it in the app, and then you power the lamp off and back on, and it should show up, and then you can add your Wi-Fi credentials and finish setting it up. There are 3 tabs at the bottom: static, dynamic, and color. Static gives some preset colors you can choose for different scenes. Dynamic gives your color changing scenes, and color allows you to directly customize the color or white warmth. You can also see Zone A and Zone B selector buttons, and those are there because yes, you can control the top and the bottom lights separately, which is so cool in my opinion. This means that you can have dual color or even just 2 different brightnesses of the same color on the top and bottom, and really makes the lamp so much more customizable than just a single color. WiZ works natively with Home Assistant, so it should show up automatically and can be added there. If you look up the WiZ integration in the Home Assistant documentation, you'll see that its IoT class is local push, which is the best and means this is going to work locally over your Wi-Fi network. Once you add the lamp in Home Assistant, you get a light entity, and that allows you to adjust brightness using a slider, change the color using a color wheel, and these adjustments affect both LEDs simultaneously. You also have sliders for color brightness, cold white brightness, and warm white brightness, enabling you to mix RGB and white LEDs together to create unique lighting effects. You can also select any of the app effects from here as well. The effect speed entity works when an effect is selected and allows you to control the speed of the dynamic effect. However, the other configuration entities such as the dual head ratio and a diagnostic entity don't seem to function properly. And that's a bummer because I was hoping that one of those would allow you to control the 2 lights separately. Unfortunately not. The WiZ Hero is a slightly larger cylindrical lamp with a narrower top and a wider bottom. The top 3 quarters feature a diffused white plastic for light diffusion, while the bottom quarter is a gray opaque plastic. On the back, there's a DC power jack and a control button with a blue dot, similar to that button in the WiZ Squire. Just like the Squire, you turn it on with a single press of the control button on the back, and when you do, you see how it lights up with a nice soft glow. Once again, holding the button adjusts the brightness, and a double press turns it off. Adding the WiZ Hero to the app is the exact same process as adding the WiZ Squire, so I'm not going to get into that. And in the app, you still have those same 3 tabs that I mentioned. The only difference is you don't have zones A and B because there's only one lighting zone on this, which is the main light that lights the whole lamp. In Home Assistant, the WiZ Hero provides a light entity, a power entity, which doesn't seem to have a function, and an effect speed entity that works when an effect is selected, and a diagnostic entity. The light entity allows you to set preset colors, use a color wheel, and adjust the white warmth slider. You can also choose from all the available effects in the app, making its functionality very similar to the WiZ Squire. Overall, this lamp is pretty basic and doesn't really stand out in any way except for the price, which is a bit high in my opinion, but we'll cover that at the end of the video. The Xiaomi Mi Bedside Lamp 2 is a real chonky cylindrical lamp that reminds me of a tin coffee can for some reason. It has a diffused white plastic top and a white opaque base. On the front, there's an elongated cutout in that diffuser that has a button for turning it on and off, a slider for adjusting brightness, and a button to cycle through different effects. The base has rubber feet, a HomeKit pairing QR code, and a DC power jack on the back. When you turn it on, you can see the entire diffuser has a nice even glow, no hot spots, and the buttons on the front light up. You can see that the slider shows what the brightness setting is, which reminds me of those Lutron and Innovelli dimmer switches where it has a little light bar on the side which tells you what the brightness percentage is. The top button allows you to cycle through the warm and cool white presets, and if you hold it you can switch to color mode and then tap it to cycle through color presets. In the app you get a toggle to turn the power on and off, a brightness slider, 2 tabs for color temperature and color, allowing you to set the lamp to a white light or any color you prefer. You can also save some presets for quick access, and the app includes scheduling and automation options. Those aren't necessary for me because I'm going to be connected to Home Assistant where I can do any kind of automations I want. To add this lamp to Home Assistant, it's actually pretty easy because it's automatically discovered via the HomeKit integration. So you enter the lamp's pairing code found on the sticker, and it will be added to Home Assistant. In Home Assistant, you get a light entity and an identify entity. And the light entity lets you adjust the brightness with a slider, choose colors with a color wheel, and set the white warmth level. However, it doesn't support effects or import presets from the app, so it keeps it pretty simple. The standout feature, in my opinion, of this lamp is that design. I love how it has that smooth can shape, but it's got that little cutout with the slider and those buttons. Everything looks so good, and it's one of the best at diffusing the light so there's no hot spots. One thing I wish you could do is adjust the brightness of those buttons, but I haven't seen that you can actually do that, but still, really nice lamp. This last one is the LiFX Luna, and this was actually just announced this year at CES 2025. When I started working on this comparison, I reached out to LiFX to see if they would send me one, and they sent me one with no strings attached that I could test out. They didn't even ask me to make a video about it, so I'm going to include it here just so you know. The lamp features an oblong oval-shaped face with tapered sides, but they're not so steep that it prevents it from sitting upright on that bottom side. The lamp has a permanent power cord that comes out of the back, but there's a little notch on the back side so that this thing can be mounted on the wall and the cord can sneak out behind it easily. The front is made of a thin layer of clear acrylic with a white diffuser behind it, while the rest of it is made of white plastic. On the top, there are 4 buttons for various controls that I'll show in a second. The back has a cross-shaped indentation. It's kind of weird, but that's for mounting. And the mount that comes with it is cross-shaped as well and allows you to attach it to a wall or other surface via adhesive or a screw. The back of the device has a Matter QR code for smart home connectivity, and like I mentioned, there's also that little cutout so the cord can sneak out the back if you did mount it flush to a wall. If you press the power button on the top, you can see that it's got a really clean, diffuse look that you get through that front. The plus and minus buttons allow you to adjust the brightness, and I have to say that this thing is insanely bright. It actually hurt my eyes to look at it on max brightness. The 4th button cycles through a bunch of different effects that we'll see in the app later on. To add the LiFX Luna to the app, you tap the plus button, tap New Product, and then scan the QR code. The controls include a toggle button, a brightness slider, a white warmth wheel, and a color wheel for setting the lamp's color. The Luna features multiple LEDs behind a diffuser, allowing for multicolor effects. You can choose from various effects like clouds, color cycle, and EQ visualizer, which is going to use its built-in microphone. Each effect has adjustable speed and sensitivity settings. You can also select from the preset themes or create your own color combinations. Additionally, the app allows you to set color zones, which effectively breaks the lamp's display up into a grid, and then you can assign different colors to each zone or part of that grid, creating custom complex lighting effects. The app's interface locks the color choices in place on the color wheel so that it makes it easy for you to pick contrasting or complementary colors. In Home Assistant, the LiFX Luna is automatically discovered. You can find it in the Devices and Services section and add it with a few clicks. Once added, the Luna provides several entities: a light entity, an identify entity, a restart entity, and a theme entity. The light entity allows you to just toggle the light on and off, adjust the brightness, use the color wheel and white warm slider. And you can also select from a few available effects that are integrated from the app. The Identify entity helps you locate the device by flashing the device. The Restart entity lets you reboot it if needed. And the Theme entity allows you to apply different lighting themes as defined in the app. Overall, I really do like this lamp, and I think it's got a decent price point based on what it has to offer. It is super bright, and to me, it's more of a light for illuminating a room rather than just a bedside table lamp. But it does go dim enough to function that way. It's got a really wide range of brightness, which is pretty cool. Okay, so now let's talk about compatibility with the 6 major smart home platforms. The chart here shows the smart home compatibility of all 13 smart lamps across the 6 major platforms. All 13 lamps are compatible with Home Assistant, making it the only platform supported by every device listed. When testing these table lamps out, I wanted to take into account how they'll be used in my testing. One of the pieces of feedback I got from my smart bulb comparison video was, how dim do these go? Because a lot of people want to know, can I use it for a nightlight? Well, now I'm doing table lamps, and these will definitely, almost guaranteed, be used for a nightlight at someone's house. So I think brightness level testing is even more important for these. I tested each lamp by setting them to blue, green, and red at maximum brightness to compare color brightness differences. You can see that the LiFX Luna is super bright on all 3 colors. The lowest brightness when set to maximum was the Xiaomi lamp and the Eve Flare, and by eye the Eve Flare was dimmer. The Yeelight, Xiaomi, Eve, and LiFX lamps all have extremely even lighting, properly diffused, without any hot spots showing through the diffuser. Due to the shape of each lamp being relatively different, I couldn't really get a color accuracy comparison like I did in the previous video, but by eye I would say that Yeelight had one of the best color accuracies of any of them, followed closely by the Xiaomi lamp and the LiFX Luna. However, many smart bulbs and lamps struggle with yellow accuracy, and the best to me was the LiFX Luna when it comes to yellow, while the Xiaomi and the Cono had pretty poor yellow color actually. Next, I set each lamp to the warmest and coolest white settings and recorded them at both maximum and minimum brightness to compare the brightness and dimness levels. You can see that the Cono, Flare, Hue Go, and Hue Iris can go the dimmest, followed closely by the Luna. Brightness-wise, the LiFX Luna blows all of them out of the water like I mentioned previously. Another thing that I noticed is when I set them all to cool white, while most of them claimed that they could go to 6500 Kelvin, the Eve flare was definitely not 6500K. The Meross MSL430 had a bit of a greenish tinge compared to most of the others, and the Yeelight had a bit of a warmer white. The LiFX Luna might have been a tinge warmer than some of the others, but this is all by eye. I really didn't have a good way to measure the Kelvin rating of the whiteness. Okay, you stuck around to the end. Now let's talk about my favorites and my least favorites. Just a reminder, I've left links to all of these products in the description, and if one of these lamps interests you and you want to buy it, if you use the link that I put in the description, I get a little bit of a commission at no cost to you, and it really helps the channel out. Okay, so we'll start with my favorites. For the lamp that has the best effects in my opinion, and actually the best overall when it comes to effects and looks and everything else, I'm going with the Govee Table Lamp 1. The looks are amazing. The effects are so cool, even like the canvas where you can draw like finger paint and it will display through that diffuser. Everything is awesome about this lamp, and almost nothing is not awesome. I'd say next up to this one is the LiFX Luna. I don't think it looks quite as good, but that brightness is insane. For the best portable lamp, I think you gotta choose the Hue Go, because of its great build quality unlike the Cono, and its solid connectivity unlike the Eve Flare. It really has a unique look, and I surprised myself by liking and recommending a Philips Hue product. I've never done that. If you're just looking for the brightest lamp, one that you can use as a nightlight, but also as a room illuminator, you obviously gotta go with the LiFX Luna. It gets super bright like I mentioned, it's blinding almost, and I also think that it has the widest range of brightness, getting super dim and super bright. If you're looking for the one that can get the dimmest, I think you gotta look at the Philips Hue Go. Now, I will say that the Hue Go is a bit expensive, but what more can you expect from Philips Hue products? If you're just looking for the best lamp for the price, or a cheap lamp, I think the Meross MSL450 is a great way to go, although I think the MSL450 looks better if you're willing to spend a few more dollars. For a mid-range lamp that has top-tier compatibility, I think you gotta go with the Yeelight D2, which is super compatible, and I think had a really beautifully diffused look, although not super bright. Okay, so here are the ones I would not recommend. First, the Umbra Cono needs to go. It's super cheap feeling and looking like I mentioned before, and it really seems sloppily and hastily designed. While trying to look modern, it leans more toward chintzy. Example is that the base part of this device is made out of plastic that looks like it's been injection molded, but the plastic is flecked like it's some sort of recycled PVC material. And then the body of the lamp, the cone part, is a solid gray plastic that's obviously a different material. They don't match and it just looks bad. Secondly, I wouldn't recommend the WiZ Hero, as I don't see anything special about it that has to offer. Of course, it does work locally with Home Assistant, but the price is just really high for what you're getting. You're not getting that much. To give some perspective, it's the same price as the Govee Table Lamp 1, which in my opinion is the best one. If you're a little bit shocked about that price, you might be interested to know that Philips Hue and WiZ are owned by the same company. There you go. Lastly, the Hue Iris to me is just way too expensive. I do like how it works with everything and how it does have this unique look. It looks like an art piece, but I think it's not for most people and most people's houses, and the price is just way higher than its true value, at least to me. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it gave you some insight on what type of smart lamps are out there that work with Home Assistant and which ones you might want to try for your specific needs. If you did like the video, please take a second to hit the like button And let me know in the comments if there's a lamp that I somehow missed, or if you've had different experiences with these lamps or these brands. Also, I'm going to be doing more comparison videos like this in the future, as well as some Home Assistant tutorials. I'm trying to stick to those types of videos. So if you're interested in seeing those when they come out, hit that subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified. Anyway, thanks for watching. See ya.